The emergency summons hit Petra Vaughn's communicator at 3 in the morning with all the subtlety of a tactical nuke. Priority Alpha. Report to admin immediately. Diplomatic crisis. She stared at it through one bleary eye, contemplated ignoring it, then remembered she actually needed this job to pay rent. 20 minutes later, she was standing in Hollis Grant's office, wearing yesterday's clothes and what she desperately hoped was yesterday's attitude, while her supervisor paced like a caged predator. "The cubs won't eat," Hollis said without preamble. Petra blinked. "What cubs?" "The Tahareki Sovereign's cubs. The ones we've been hosting for the last week. The ones whose parents are here negotiating a trade alliance worth approximately 6 trillion credits." "Right, those cubs." Petra rubbed her eyes. "And they won't eat because, if we knew that, I wouldn't have dragged you out of bed at dark 30. Hollis pulled up a holographic display. 84 hours. No food, no water. Medical scans show they're healthy. Just refusing. That's impossible. Predators don't hunger strike, especially not cubs. Tell that to the 3 alien tiger equivalents currently turning our diplomatic mission into a potential interstellar incident." Hollis leaned forward. "Fix this, Petra, or we're all unemployed. I'm a behavioral specialist, not a miracle worker. Then specialize in a miracle. Fast." The observation room was designed for studying dangerous fauna from a safe distance. Today it was hosting 3 bundles of obsidian black scales, each the size of a full-grown lion, each stubbornly not eating. Petra pressed her face against the transparent barrier and studied them. Vek, the largest. Tal, the only female. Rin, the smallest but somehow the most intense. All 3 had 6 legs, bioluminescent amber eyes, and what the briefing files described as exceptional hunting potential. Right now they looked like oversized house cats who'd been personally offended by the concept of dinner. "They've tried everything," a voice said behind her. Petra turned. 2 massive Tahareki stood there, Karzul and Shiara, the cubs' parents. 12 feet tall, armored in natural plating that looked like it could stop a missile, eyes that glowed with distress. "Different meats," Shiara continued, her voice tight. "Live prey, temperature variations, fresh kills, nothing. They reject our offerings," Karzul added. "This is unprecedented." Petra looked back at the cubs. They were curled together in the corner, eyes open, watching everything. Alert, aware, just completely disinterested in food. "They will die," Shiara whispered. "Our lineage will end." "They're not dying," Petra said automatically, then caught herself at the parents' horrified expressions. What I mean is, they're being dramatic. Look at them. Their eyes are bright. Coats are healthy. They're just starving themselves to death?" Karzul's voice carried an edge that made Petra's hindbrain scream about apex predators. "Picky," Petra finished weakly. The silence was deafening. "I'll need to go in there," Petra said finally. "Absolutely not," Karzul said immediately. "They're juveniles, but they're still Tahareki. They could kill you in seconds." "Then I'll be quick." Petra was already moving toward the airlock. "I can't diagnose behavior from behind glass." The cubs' enclosure smelled like clean bedding and wasted food. 3 piles of carefully prepared meat sat untouched in feeding bowls. The cubs' heads all swiveled toward Petra the moment she entered. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Vek, the largest, made a soft chirping sound. Curious, not aggressive. "Hey," Petra said quietly, crouching low, making herself smaller, non-threatening. "Heard you're on a hunger strike. Want to tell me what that's about?" Vek's ears twitched. He stood, stretching with feline grace, and padded closer. The other 2 followed, moving in perfect synchronization. They circled her, sniffing, investigating. Petra held very still and tried not to think about how fast they could probably disembowel her. Tal bumped her head against Petra's shoulder. Rin pawed at her boot. "You're friendly," Petra observed. "So it's not aggression, not fear. You're just—" She pulled out the portable scanner from her belt, ran it over Vek. Perfect health markers. No parasites, no illness, no nutritional deficiencies yet. What do you want? She whispered. Vec sat down, right in front of her, staring. Petra tried everything she'd learned in 15 years of xenozoology. Different presentation styles, hand feeding, encouraging pack feeding, mimicking hunting behaviors. The cubs watched with interest. They did not eat. 12 hours later, Petra was ready to admit defeat. She slumped against the wall of the enclosure, exhausted, frustrated, and trying very hard not to cry in front of alien royalty. Her stomach growled. Loudly. Right. She'd forgotten to eat. Again. Petra pulled out her emergency meal. Leftover stir-fry she'd packed yesterday and forgotten about. Rice, vegetables, some chicken. Not fancy, just fuel. She was too tired to care about professionalism. She sat on the floor, popped open the container, and took a bite. All 3 cubs' heads snapped toward her. What? Petra said around a mouthful of rice. Vec stood, approached, sat down directly next to her, close enough that his shoulder pressed against hers. Tal did the same on her other side. Rin settled in front, completing the semicircle. All 3 stared at her food container with laser focus. Oh, you have got to be kidding me, Petra said slowly. Vec made a soft, questioning sound. You want my lunch? Vec's tail twitched. His eyes tracked the fork from container to Petra's mouth. This is human food. You're obligate carnivores. This is mostly vegetables. Another soft chirp. Vec's gaze never wavered. Petra looked at the untouched bowls of prime meat. Back at her mediocre stir-fry. Back at 3 apex predator cubs who were suddenly the picture of focused attention. This makes no sense, she muttered. But she picked up a piece of chicken from her container and held it out. Vec took it from her fingers with surprising gentleness. Chewed. Swallowed. Made a sound that could only be described as happy. Tal and Rin immediately started making excited chirping noises, pressing closer. Okay, Petra breathed. Okay. What is happening right now? Through the observation window, she could see Karzul and Shiara frozen in shock. She fed another piece to Tal. Then Rin. They ate enthusiastically, purring sounds vibrating through their chests. The observation room door opened. An elderly Tahareki entered. Elder Mahtok, according to the briefing files. Spiritual leader of the delegation. He took one look at the scene and went very, very still. Impossible, he said quietly. The sacred feeding cannot occur with an outsider. Petra, holding her now mostly empty container, looked up. What sacred feeding? Over the intercom, Hollis's voice crackled. Petra, whatever you're doing, don't stop. Just keep doing exactly that. Vec, apparently deciding Petra was the best thing that had happened to him all week, climbed directly into her lap. All the monitoring equipment started screaming alarms. Tal and Rin pressed against her sides, purring louder. Matok stepped closer to the barrier, his expression unreadable. She has been chosen. By ancient law, she is now their pack mother. Petra looked down at the cub in her lap, at the empty food container, at her hands that still smelled like stir-fry. I'm their what? Petra sat very still on the floor of the enclosure, trying to process the words pack mother, while 3 apex predator cubs treated her like the world's most interesting climbing structure. Vec had claimed her lap. Tal was draped across her shoulders like a very heavy, very scaly scarf. Rin was systematically investigating her pockets. This is a mistake, Petra said. I shared lunch. That's it. Just lunch. Mahtok entered the enclosure slowly, moving with the careful reverence of someone approaching something sacred. Among the Tahareki, there is no just lunch. Cubs choose their pack mother through the first shared hunt. I didn't hunt anything. I had leftover stir-fry. You consumed sustenance in their presence, demonstrated dominance through confident feeding behavior, then offered them a portion of your kill. It was chicken, from the cafeteria. The symbolic meaning remains, Mahtok gestured to the cubs. They accepted food from your hand. This is the ancient bonding protocol. They have chosen you. Karzul and Shiara had entered as well, both looking like they were processing their own crisis. Karzul spoke first, his voice carrying forced calm. "You are now bound to our clan. This is the highest honor our people can bestow." Petra looked down at Vek, who was purring against her stomach. "I have student loans and a studio apartment. I can't raise cubs." "The choice was theirs, not yours," Shiara said gently. "And it is permanent, until they reach maturity." "How long is that?" 15 standard years. Petra's eye twitched. 15. Yes. Years. It is law. Vek made a happy chirping sound and kneaded her leg with retracted claws. Tal started grooming Petra's hair. Rin had found an old protein bar in her pocket and was showing it to her like a trophy. "This is insane," Petra whispered. "This is sacred," Matok corrected. Hollis's voice crackled over the intercom. "Petra, I'm pulling your file. How do you feel about a very large promotion?" "I feel like I'm having a breakdown." "That's normal. Roll with it." The next hour was a crash course in Tahareki biology that Petra definitely hadn't signed up for. Mahatok explained while the cubs continued using her as furniture. Tahareki cubs imprinted on strength, confidence, and feeding behavior. In the wild, pack mothers led hunts, demonstrated dominance, and shared kills with the young. "You were calm," Matok said. "Exhausted but calm. You ate without fear or hesitation." To them, this signaled apex predator confidence. "I was tired and hungry." They do not distinguish intent from action. Matok's tail swished. When you shared your food, you accepted them into your pack. The bonding was instantaneous. Can we uninstantaneous it? No. A new voice joined the conversation. High-pitched, crystalline, vibrating with scientific excitement. "Fascinating. The human pack bonding instinct has cross-species compatibility." Petra looked up to see Pixon, the station's lead Quillen researcher, floating through the doorway. They were pure energy contained in a vaguely humanoid crystalline form, and currently glowing with enthusiasm. "I don't have pack bonding instinct," Petra said flatly. "I have a sandwich." "Your neurochemistry suggests otherwise." Pixon produced scanners from somewhere. Elevated oxytocin, increased dopamine response when cubs make contact, cortisol reduction in their presence, textbook bonding cascade. I'm just... Petra struggled to find words while Tal headbutted her cheek affectionately. "I'm being polite." "You're being maternal," Pixon corrected, taking readings. "Humans bond with nearly anything. It's remarkable. And slightly concerning from an evolutionary standpoint." Rin chose that moment to bring Petra a rock. Just a rock. Placed it carefully in her hand and looked up at her with expectant eyes. "Good job," Petra said automatically. "That's a very nice rock." Rin preened. "See?" Pixon gestured with 3 crystalline appendages. "Reinforcement behavior. Maternal approval. You're doing it unconsciously." Tal brought her a piece of stolen equipment. Looked like a datapad stylus. Vek contributed a bolt he'd apparently unscrewed from somewhere. The cubs were bringing her gifts. "Oh no," Petra said. "Oh yes," Pixon replied cheerfully. "You're their mother now. Congratulations." The diplomatic summit resumed 3 hours later. Petra sat in the conference room, a space designed for high-level negotiations between species, decorated with enough diplomatic flags to start a very colorful fire, with 3 cubs who refused to be anywhere else. Vek had claimed her lap again. Tal was draped across her shoulders. Rin was curled at her feet, occasionally batting at her shoelaces. 6 different species ambassadors stared. "Perhaps," the Quellen trade representative said delicately, "we could reschedule?" "No," Karzul said firmly. "The cubs have chosen. We proceed." Hollis, standing in the corner, made frantic act-natural gestures. Petra looked at him. Looked at the cubs. Looked at the assembled representatives from half a dozen civilizations. "I'm sitting in a galactic summit with alien cubs using me as furniture," she said. "What part of this is natural?" "The part where you take notes," Hollis hissed. Petra pulled out her datapad. Rin immediately tried to eat the stylus. Rin, no, that's not food. Rin looked offended but released it. The Flanari ambassador leaned forward. The human commands the cubs? I'm just asking nicely, Petra said. They obey. They're children. They listen sometimes. Karzul began presenting the trade agreement terms, complex negotiations about resource sharing, territorial boundaries, mutual defense pacts. Petra tried to focus, tried to take actual notes. Tal started grooming her hair again. Vec fell asleep mid-discussion, snoring softly. Rin found the stylus again, and this time successfully stole it. Dr. Vaughn, Karzul said suddenly. Your assessment? Petra looked up. My what? Of the proposed terms. We value your input. I'm a xenozoologist. I study animal behavior. I don't do trade negotiations. You are pack mother to the heirs of our clan. Karzul's voice carried weight. Your voice carries authority. Petra stared. Cubs trust her, so parents trust her. So suddenly she had political weight in interstellar negotiations. This is the worst Tuesday I've ever had, she said. It's Thursday, Hollis corrected. That somehow makes it worse. The summit continued. Petra found herself inadvertently part of discussions about mining rights, shipping lanes, cultural exchange programs. Every time Karzul or Shiara looked uncertain, they glanced at her. At the cubs sleeping peacefully in her presence. She'd accidentally become a voting member of an alien parliament by sharing her lunch. The doors opened. A new Tahreki entered. Massive, scarred, radiating aggression like a physical force. Military bearing, combat decorations, eyes that assessed threats automatically. War leader Sektar, Mahtok said quietly. Rival clan. Sektar surveyed the room, his gaze locked on Petra and the cubs. This is unacceptable, he announced. A human cannot be pack mother to royal heirs. I challenge the sovereign's authority. The room went dead silent. Karzul stood slowly. You challenge sacred law? I challenge the wisdom of allowing an alien to raise Tahreki warriors. Sektar's claws extended. Trial by combat. Traditional solution. The cubs cannot be separated from their pack mother without psychological damage, Shiara said, voice tight. You know this. Then the pack mother enters the arena. Sektar smiled, showing far too many teeth. With the cubs, against my warriors, let us see if she is truly worthy. Petra processed this. You want me to fight trained warriors, in an arena, with 3 cubs who think I'm their mom. Yes. I'm a scientist. You are pack mother. Prove it. Vec woke up, sensing tension. Looked at Petra with complete trust. This is the worst Tuesday I've ever had, Petra repeated. Still Thursday, Hollis said, then added, I'm updating your hazard pay. Make it a lot of hazard pay. Sektar turned to leave. The arena. Tomorrow at dawn. Bring your cubs, human. Let us see what you've taught them. The doors closed behind him. Petra looked at Karzul. Please tell me there's a way out of this. There is not. Please tell me trial by combat is metaphorical. It is very literal. Tal chirped and head-butted her cheek. Petra closed her eyes. 15 years. You said 15 years until they're mature. Yes. I'm starting a countdown. The arena was designed for spectacle and violence in equal measure. Sand-covered floor, rising tiers packed with thousands of Tahreki, all watching with predatory focus. Somewhere in the crowd, Petra could hear betting pools being established. She stood in the center with 3 cubs clinging to her legs like oversized, terrified barnacles. This is fine, she muttered. Everything is fine. Vec whimpered. Tal's claws dug into her pants. Rin was making a sound like a distressed kettle. Across the arena, Vorthal entered. 12 feet of battle-hardened warrior, covered in scars that suggested he'd won more fights than Petra had eaten meals. He carried weapons that looked designed for maximum damage. I'm a scientist, Petra said to nobody in particular. I have a doctorate. This shouldn't be happening. The pack mother will demonstrate her worthiness, Sektar announced from the observation platform, voice carrying across the arena. Or she will prove our concerns justified. Hollis's voice crackled in her earpiece. You don't have to win, just survive. That's not as encouraging as you think it is. Vorthal approached slowly, weapons lowered but ready. I do not wish to harm you, human. But I must test your strength. I don't have strength. I have student debt and anxiety. Then you should not have been chosen. The cubs pressed closer, growling now. Defensive. Petra felt their fear vibrating through their bodies. She knelt, making herself small, putting herself at their eye level. Hey, she said softly. It's okay. We're okay. Watch me. 3 pairs of glowing eyes locked onto hers. You know how we practiced? In the enclosure, remember? Vex's ears perked slightly. Tal stopped trembling. Vorthal charged. Petra didn't fight. Didn't even try. What she did was move, stepping aside, redirecting, using the same techniques she'd use with any large predator, making herself a moving target, keeping the cubs behind her. Stay, she said sharply. The cubs froze. Circle! They moved, instinctively responding to the command, spreading out, creating space. Flank! Vex moved left. Tal right. Rin held center. Vorthal stopped mid-swing, confused. This wasn't combat. This was... She's training them, someone in the crowd whispered. Petra kept moving, kept talking. Together, like we practiced. Vex, left. Tal, pressure from the side. Rin, follow my lead. The cubs moved in coordination. Something clicked in their developing brains. Pack tactics, cooperative hunting, unified movement. Young Tahreki didn't do this. They fought alone, learned independence, developed solo combat skills. These cubs were learning to work as a unit. Fascinating, Pixon's voice came through the observation feeds. Their neural synchronization is increasing. Vorthal struck again, faster this time. Petra dodged, barely, and the cubs reacted, not attacking, but positioning, cutting off escape routes, working together without being told. She's not trying to win, Mahtok said from the platform, voice filled with awe. She's protecting them while teaching them. The old ways, another elder breathed. The pack ways. Petra was too busy staying alive to appreciate the cultural significance. Vorthal was testing her, pressing harder, forcing her to adapt. And every time she moved, every command she gave, the cubs learned. They were learning mid-battle. Vorthal feinted left, struck right. Petra went down, hit the sand hard, and suddenly 3 cubs were between her and the warrior, forming a defensive line, growling, protecting their pack mother. Stand down, Vorthal said. I do not fight cubs. Good, Petra gasped, getting to her feet. Because neither do I. She placed a hand on Vex's shoulder. Easy. Back. The cubs retreated but held formation, coordinated, synchronized. Vorthal stared. At the cubs moving as one. At Petra's protective stance. At everything he was witnessing. He lowered his weapons. I yield. The arena went dead silent. Sektar stood. You have not been defeated. No, Vorthal agreed. I have been educated. He turned to face the crowd. She teaches what we have forgotten. Ancient Tahreki fought in packs. We evolved for cooperation. But modern tradition emphasizes individual honor, solo combat. He gestured to the cubs, still holding formation around Petra. She has given them back our ancestral strength. In one battle, she taught them what takes us years to remember. Karzul approached, entering the arena. You yield to a human? I yield to a teacher. Vorthal inclined his head to Petra, and to the pack mother who knows what we need better than we do. Petra, covered in sand and breathing hard, looked at the cubs, at Vex's proud stance, at Tal's focused eyes, at Rin's ready posture. I was just trying not to die, she said. You were teaching them to live, Mahtok corrected, descending to the arena floor. The ancient bond. Cubs' minds synchronizing, working as one. Pixon materialized nearby, scanners going wild. Unprecedented neural patterns. Tahreki cubs don't develop pack mind until adolescence. She's accelerated their development by years. I taught them basic coordination, Petra protested. You taught them to be Tahareki, Karzul said quietly. True Tahareki, as our ancestors were. The crowd was murmuring, elders conferring, military observers taking frantic notes. Sektar stood rigid on the platform, clearly processing. Finally, the human has proven worthy. More than worthy. He paused. Our cubs should learn from her. Wait, what? Petra said. All our cubs. The pack-mother must teach them. Rebuild our traditions. I have a research paper due next month. Hollis's voice in her ear. Petra, 6 other species just requested you train their young. There are bidding wars starting. Tell them I charge by the hour. How much per hour? More than I'm making now. The cubs, sensing the tension was over, tackled Petra in a purring pile. She went down under 3 bodies worth of affectionate predator. Can't breathe, she wheezed. Cubs, please. They purred louder. Mahtok approached, traditional marking pigments in hand. You must be formally recognized. Pack-mother of the Sovereign's clan, teacher of the ancient ways. Can I get a different title? Something less permanent? No. Can I at least finish being crushed by cubs first? Also no. Vek licked her face. Tal was kneading her stomach. Rin had found her earpiece and was trying to eat it. Rin, that's not food. That's how I communicate with people. Rin looked offended but dropped it. Petra lay in the sand, covered in cubs, surrounded by alien dignitaries discussing her new role in rebuilding an entire species' cultural approach to child-rearing. I just wanted to study animal behavior, she said to the sky. Write papers. Maybe get tenure eventually. That was the plan. Plans change, Karzul said, offering a massive clawed hand to help her up. Petra took it. The cubs remained attached. In the observation platforms, she could see representatives from multiple species, all watching, all taking notes, all clearly planning to request her services. She'd accidentally become the galaxy's most in-demand childcare specialist by sharing a lunch. 15 years, she reminded herself. I can do 15 years. Vek chirped happily. Maybe 14, if they mature early. Tal head-butted her shoulder affectionately. Okay, 15. But I'm negotiating better quarters. These cubs are getting big. The crowd erupted in what might have been cheering, or challenging, or both. She wasn't entirely sure. What she was sure of, her life had just gotten exponentially more complicated. And somewhere in the station cafeteria, her meal plan was about to get very, very expensive. 3 months later, Petra stood in what used to be Cargo Bay 6, and was now the Interspecies Youth Development Center, watching 15 Tahareki cubs practice coordinated movement patterns. Circle formation, she called out. Good, now rotate. The cubs moved as one. Vek, Tal, and Rin circulated among them, demonstrating, correcting, encouraging. Her original 3 had become assistant teachers, helping younger cubs learn what they'd mastered. Remarkable, Mahatok observed from the observation deck. Military effectiveness among trained youth has increased by 340%. It's just teamwork, Petra said for the 100th time. Basic cooperation. You employ ancient sacred techniques. I'm using positive reinforcement and play-based learning. It's literally just don't isolate your children and let them play together. Sacred wisdom, Mahtok insisted. Petra had given up arguing. The Tahareki treated her basic animal psychology like she was revealing profound ancestral secrets. She was teaching socialization. They were treating it like she'd unlocked the mysteries of the universe. Station Tycho 9 had been converted into a permanent learning center. Cubs from multiple clans rotated through, learning pack tactics, cooperative behavior, and social skills. The results were undeniable. Young Tahareki raised with her methods were more adaptable, more coordinated, more effective. All because she told them to play together. Break time, Petra announced. 15 minutes. Hydrate. The cubs dispersed, chattering among themselves. Vek approached, now adolescent-sized and still treating her like the center of his universe. The new cubs are learning fast, he reported, voice deepening into adult tones. You're a good teacher. Vek preened. Tal and Rin joined them, forming their habitual protective semicircle. "We have more arriving next week," Rin added. "From the southern territories." Petra pulled up her schedule. It was terrifying. "I'm going to need more assistance." "We're here," all three said simultaneously. Her cubs. Still hers, even as they grew into their own strength. The summons to the Galactic Council arrived the next day. Petra stood in the vast chamber, hundreds of representatives from dozens of species, feeling significantly underdressed for what was apparently a formal inquiry. "Dr. Vaughn," the council head began, a towering Vrexian with too many eyes. "We're investigating what we're calling the human pack bonding phenomenon." "The what now?" "Reports have reached us from 12 different cultures. Humans inadvertently bonding with alien young, creating attachments, integrating into family structures." The Vrexian leaned forward. "This is concerning." "Why is it concerning?" "It suggests strategic infiltration, deliberate cultural manipulation." Petra blinked. "You think we're infiltrating by befriending children? Are you not?" "We just like kids." Petra gestured helplessly. "And animals. And anything that needs help. It's not strategic, it's just human." Hollis, standing beside her, cleared his throat. "If I may address the council, humans will pack bond with a Roomba. This is documented." The chamber went silent. "What?" the Vrexian asked slowly. "Is a Roomba?" "A cleaning device," Petra explained. "Automated disc. Vacuums floors. Humans name them. Give them personalities. Decorate them. Mourn when they break. There are entire social media communities dedicated to Roomba appreciation. You bond with cleaning equipment. Some people bond with their cars, their computers, houseplants, rocks they found that looked interesting." Petra was on a roll now. "We had a Mars rover that we threw a birthday party for. Millions of humans, celebrating a robot, on another planet, that we'd never meet." "This is madness," someone muttered. "This is humanity," Hollis corrected. "We can't help ourselves. Put us in a room with literally anything and we'll try to befriend it. Cubs, hatchlings, offspring of any species, they don't stand a chance. We see something small and vulnerable and our brains just activate." The council members exchanged looks. "You're saying this isn't coordinated?" "We're saying it's hardwired," Petra confirmed. "Evolutionary trait. Pack bonding instinct. It's why we domesticated wolves into dogs. Why we keep pet lizards. Why I'm now raising 3 alien apex predators who I met by sharing lunch." The Vrexian processed this. "Your species accidentally infiltrates others through friendship?" "Pretty much. This is the strangest strategic advantage we've ever encountered." "It's not a strategy," Petra protested. "It's just who we are." But the council was already conferring, making notes, reassessing humanity's role in galactic affairs. Hollis leaned over. "You just made humans sound like an invasion species that attacks with cuteness. That's not what I meant. That's absolutely what they heard. Life found a rhythm, even when that rhythm included raising 3 increasingly large predators while teaching interspecies behavioral science." Petra's quarters had been expanded, twice. The cubs needed space. They were adolescent now, fiercely protective, insisting on escorting her everywhere. She'd published 6 papers on cross-species imprinting. Her work was revolutionizing xenopsychology. Karzul and Shiara had become odd but effective co-parents. They handled the Tahareki-specific training. Petra handled the socialization. Together, they were raising cubs who were both traditionally strong and cooperatively skilled. "This is the weirdest parenting arrangement in the galaxy," Petra observed one evening. "It works," Shiara said simply. The station had become a permanent cultural exchange hub. Cubs from multiple species rotated through, learning from each other, developing cross-cultural communication skills. The pack bonding had gone recursive. Petra's cubs were now teaching other species young the cooperation they'd learned. It was chaos. It was beautiful. It was absolutely unsustainable, but nobody wanted to stop. Petra was finally finally having a quiet meal in her quarters when the cubs burst through the door. "More babies need help," Vec announced. Petra looked at her food, at the cubs, at her communicator blinking with urgent messages. "I'm eating. This is my food. Mine." "But they're small," Tal said, "and scared." "Different species," Rin added. "Won't eat, just like we were." Petra closed her eyes, sighed, put her meal in a container. "Fine, but I'm expensing this lunch." "You always expense lunch," Vec pointed out, "because I never get to eat it." They headed toward the crisis together. One human, 3 massive predators, moving through station corridors like the world's strangest family unit. "I went to school for xenozoology," Petra said to the universe. "I have a doctorate in predator behavior. There is literally nothing in my education about becoming the galaxy's emotional support human." Vec bumped her hand with his head. She scratched behind his auditory ridge automatically. "This is fine. Everything is fine. I'm sure this is a sustainable career path." It absolutely wasn't. But the cubs purred. The alliance held. Petra's bank account was significantly healthier thanks to consulting fees, and somewhere in the station cafeteria, her lunch was getting cold. Again. The station intercom crackled. "Dr. Vaughn to Docking Bay 8. We have a situation. Something about hatchlings and a transport captain and—" "Just get down here." Petra stopped walking, looked at her cubs. "Want to bet it's another adoption?" "Yes," all 3 said in unison. "We really need to teach the galaxy about boundaries." But she went anyway. Because that's what pack mothers do. They show up. They help. They bond with literally anything that needs them, whether it's sensible or not. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough to change how an entire galaxy thinks about raising their young, even if it means never finishing a meal in peace again. Vec, Tal, and Rin followed close behind, ready to help with whatever chaos waited at Docking Bay 8. After all, they'd learned from the best. A human who couldn't walk past anything small and scared without trying to fix it. The galaxy didn't stand a chance.